Broncos lose to the Seahawks 26-20. Not a good showing from Denver. Not a good start from Bo Nix. We're going to break it all down on today's post-game show, but initial reaction to this game is Bo Nix looked and played like a rookie, which we had a handful of rookies making their NFL debuts today, and Bo Nix, unfortunately, was not the guy that we saw in the preseason against the second and third stringers, which I warned you guys, we saw great stuff from him in the preseason, but let's at least take it with not a grain of salt, but at least a few grains of salt that when you play against backups, you're probably going to put up some good numbers. But Bo Nix, 26 for 42, 138 yards, and 2 interceptions. Listen, what I can tell you is it's week one. Let's not overreact. Let's not act like the season is over. Let's not act like Bo Nix is no longer going to be a good quarterback for this team. It was his NFL debut in a hostile environment against a good Seahawks defense. I don't think we should look at this and decide he's done, season's over. There is nothing worse than starting off 0-1 in the NFL, but the Broncos opened up the year with a rookie quarterback on the road in one of the toughest places to play in the NFL. I'm not terribly surprised by this outcome. I mean, Vegas had it as a 6-point favorite, so this kind of went as expected in the eyes of the odds makers, but Bo Nix did make some history and not in a great way. This one from Andrew Mason. Bo Nix, 138 passing yards on 42 attempts, just the 10th quarterback in NFL history to throw for fewer than 140 yards with at least 40 attempts in the game, which kind of feeds into what the biggest issue was for the Broncos outside of Bo Nix and the offense having just a slow game and not a great start altogether, and then some turnovers in the second half. Denver never got the ground game going, right? I said in my keys to victory, if you want to make Bo Nix's life easier, give him some support on the ground. There was nothing going on the ground. The Broncos somewhat abandoned the ground game, and those 42 pass attempts really speak to that, but there was just nothing cooking for Denver on the turf. Bo Nix got his first touchdown on a run towards the end of the game to at least make it somewhat of a close game. But ultimately, a Tyler Lockett clutch for one-handed grab on third down killed any comeback chance for Denver. But we can all agree that it's week one, but changes have to be made offensively. Now, Sean Payton, he went to bat for his quarterback in the postgame press conference. Talked about the receivers dropping some balls and Bo Nix having some successes here and there, but altogether, not what they wanted to see or, wanting to see a little bit more from him. But overall, if you score 20 points and 4 of those points come from safeties, that's 20% of your offense. That's not going to be sustainable. You can't bet on 4 points from safeties every single week, which let's give credit to the Broncos defense. They kept the Denver offense in this game for as long as possible, putting up points. Unfortunately, the Broncos were victims to a rookie quarterback, and that comes at a price of there are probably going to be some missed throws, and there were a lot of dink and dunks. And I was not the most popular man on Broncos YouTube when I said, in Oregon, Bo Nix did a lot of short passes, and I hope when he gets to the NFL, we'll see a new version of himself where he pushes the ball down the field. When that happened today, it was picked off by Julian Love and Tariq Woolen. So didn't see that downfield passing like I was hoping to see. Sutton, 4 grabs, 38 yards, 12 targets altogether. The wide receivers didn't do a whole lot for Nix, but it kind of goes both ways. The offensive line didn't have their best showing. Speaking of, Garett Bolles, he left with an ankle injury. Sean Payton didn't sound very concerned about it. Called it more of like a bruise than a true injury. So hopefully he'll be ready to roll for week 2, which, by the way, that's going to be home against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I hope Russell Wilson plays in that game. But if you didn't see, Russ did not play in week 1 for Pittsburgh. He was out with a calf injury. Justin Fields filled in as the Steelers beat the Falcons on the road. So when it comes to the Denver secondary, I don't think DK Metcalf or Tyler Lockett really won this game for Seattle. It was Charbonnet, but most importantly, it was Kenneth Walker. Seattle had equally as bad of a start as the Broncos offense did, but the difference maker was in the second half, They went to Kenneth Walker, and he powered them to a victory. He had 1 touchdown, 20 carries, 103 yards, nearly had 2 touchdowns, but DK Metcalf wiped 1 touchdown away from them. So altogether, this Seattle offense on the ground really started to turn the tide in the second half. And Bo Nix, that second interception to Tariq Woolen, that really put the nail in the coffin. I mean, even if the Broncos got the ball back, yeah, there would be time, there'd be a chance, but did anyone think that Nix had looked at the part of a quarterback that was about to lead them down the field for a game-winning or game-tying drive? Hand up, I didn't think so. Now, I've got more to share on this Week 1 loss for Denver, but first, I do want to give a quick shout-out to our sponsor today, which is Game Time. Game Time is a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. One thing I really like about Game Time is their all-in pricing option. Toggling this feature shows you the total upfront cost so you don't have to spend a whole bunch of time searching for tickets, getting to checkout, and seeing all the taxes and fees tacked on. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account and redeem code CHAT Sports for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Now, looking ahead for just a moment, Week 2 against the Steelers, if you want to beat the Steelers, you got to start by eliminating that Steelers pass rush led by TJ Watt. So the Broncos offensive line, I don't think was the worst in the NFL today, but they're going to have to do a better job with the Pittsburgh Steelers coming to town next. But to kind of wrap up my overall thoughts on this outcome right here, yeah, it really starts with Bo Nix and the offense getting into a better groove because it was safeties and field goals powering this team for much of the game until Bo Nix rushed in a touchdown for his first career touchdown. And ultimately, 26 completions for 138 yards. That is a very similar stat line to, I wouldn't say his Oregon days, but to the average yards per completion for Bo Nix at Oregon, right? Average depth of target. If you throw 42 times and you only get 138 yards, that's just wildly inefficient, right? You are devoting about half of your plays on offense to the pass, and you're only getting 138 yards out of it. That's just bad business right there. So they have to get better in terms of pushing the ball down the field and getting bigger plays from Bo Nix in the passing game. The good news is it's Week 1. Don't overreact to a Week 1 loss like Bo Nix is done and the season is over. I did say preseason wins are fun, and it's still encouraging to see good stuff from Nix, but that was against second and third stringers in Indianapolis. And I was concerned about the lack of downfield passing at Oregon, and that kind of reared its ugly head today in Seattle. There's a lot of season left. There is plenty of work to do. I was very encouraged by the optimism this locker room had after the loss. I mean, I remember last year, guys weren't quitting, but they were just so deflated, so tired of losing. This year, it's we know what we have in this team, and we know that we can be a better football team and win games. So season's not done, not getting there in overreactions. Neither should you. But Bo Nix and the passing attack has to be more vertical, has to be more efficient. The ground game needs to be better. And for the defense, I don't want to pick on them too much because it felt like, they weren't making great, game-changing plays. Although 2 safeties, it's hard to ask a whole lot more from the defense. They made big plays near the goal line when called upon. But we'd probably like to see a little bit of what we saw power that 5-game winning streak last year. The takeaways, those were somewhat obsolete today. All right, that's going to do it for us on our post-game show. Thank you guys for tuning in. Subscribe, and we'll see you all throughout the week with more updates.